Well, joining me this morning then to review the papers, entrepreneur Kate Hardcastle and broadcaster and writer Gemma Forte. So let me just come to you there, Gemma, starting then on the Observer front page. This is a story then on Partygate. So let's just elaborate a little bit more on us. We know that some of the Tory MPs have referred to Boris Johnson as going full Trump based on the latest revelations. Just shed a bit more light on that for us.
Okay, so it looks like Johnson might even be breaching ministerial code again by undermining the inquiry. So there you go. That really is looking through the looking glass, isn't it? So this parliamentary committee is going on. They're trying to establish whether or not he misled MPs over Partygate. Now, there is apparently a lot of evidence to suggest that he did. And he is trying to say that isn't so. So understandably, a lot of senior Conservatives are just like, this is ludicrous. This is saying that white is black and black is white, and it's very Trumpian. He still has his small band of real defenders, and I would say the word fanatic does apply because they are fanatical fans. You know, what more does this man have to do before you realise he's a liability? This comes, of course, the same week when Rishi Sunak has achieved the Windsor Framework, which ironically was fixing the botched job of the Northern Ireland Protocol, which Sunak voted for in the first place. I mean, the levels of, I'm going to call it incompetence of this government at this stage, and the sort of the headlines and the brouhaha surrounding this party, it really is a mess. And probably worth mentioning that the legal fees for this inquiry for Johnson are going to be covered by the taxpayer. And they're already looking at about £250,000. So as one Lib Dem said, I'm going to steal it. He said it's a cost of lying crisis.
And Kate, let me come to you then, looking at the NHS. This is inside the Sun newspaper. This is actually page 10. 6 days on trolley, new hospital delay stats reveal scale of NHS crisis. Look, we all know the scale of the crisis that's facing the NHS, but looking at headlines like these, 6 days on a trolley, there's quite something, isn't it?
It's so worrying because obviously we know it's quite clear that any delays when it comes to waiting for bed, waiting for treatment, ambulance delays, all of which we've heard of late, are going to have an impact in terms of the opportunity to be able to support the patient in care. These figures are up to the year ending September 2022. And we have heard from the NHS of late that ambulance response times particularly are improved, are getting better, but we cannot steer away from the fact the NHS is incredibly challenged. It needs support. We've got the budget coming up on the 15th of the 3rd. We need to understand, we had the warning from the American politician last week, Bernie Sanders, in the UK, saying do not lose the essence of the UK, keep it for the public, ensure you reinvest back in there. We've had nurses on strike, we've had ambulance workers. We just need to get the support and service to be able to help the true care that needs to happen, often at a matter of life or death scenario. And the particular case in question was a patient that was on a trolley at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Kings Lane for 141 hours. An extreme case, but nonetheless a case that happens all the same. Just last week we were talking about the 14,000 people who are medically fit, still in beds, but are waiting to be able to be moved on to appropriate levels of care again, where there's challenges and delays. So we have system issues, system errors. It doesn't mean that the nurses and doctors on the front line, who, as an aside, I'd love to see their WhatsApp messages from the pandemic, actually. I bet that tells a very different story, but have been fighting this force for good, force for care for a long time now, but the finance is going to be the make or break.
We'd all like to see their WhatsApp messages, but we can definitely take a look at one person's WhatsApp messages, which is Matt Hancock's WhatsApp messages, which has been released. And I'll come to you on this one, actually, Gemma, because that is a story that's dominated this week and no doubt will continue to dominate the headlines moving forward into the next week. I had a few days off, but my goodness, I spent most of it just reading through all of them. What did you make of them?
Well, I think Kate made a really valuable point that none of us must forget what medics went through, during this time. And I think the focus still has to be on that, the very real tragedies that they witnessed every single day, while the rest of us are all reeling at the same time from this explosive lockdown files that have been sold to the Telegraph. But it's a very interesting story because in a way it's two sort of subplots and then the main story. So you've got the sort of subplot of Isabel Oakeshott's journalistic integrity in the first place, and then you've got the next subplot, which is Hancock's immense stupidity for handing over all this confidential information for his own self-serving purposes. And then you've got the explosive mound of information that is going to be dragged out, I'm sure, for some time. And look how strong the Telegraph are going on this. Of course, they've also always been against lockdown, worth mentioning that bias. But there's absolutely no doubt about it. What you're getting from these WhatsApps is just contempt. It's just the language. And when you see it, and it's not just Hancock, of course, it's Simon Case, it's everybody is dragged into this. And we're seeing how Eat Out to Help Out, Sunak's enterprise initiative, was a disaster, really, in terms of spreading the virus and how that was covered up and how some scaremongering tactics were definitely applied in order to ensure that people complied at later stages of lockdown. So, I mean, it's just horrendous. I just feel so sorry for Britain. I feel like we deserve better, and we have done for a long, long time.
And let me just, this is a change of gear. This is a health warning that a lot of us will welcome. Trying to get a six-pack isn't actually good for you. Kate, what do you make of this? This is a source of news that I welcome in my life, but I mean, I don't know how you feel about this. The Star front page.
Getting a six-pack, I think I remember seeing that. Was that the idea that we didn't need a six-pack, we just could enjoy everything? Yes, that was the one. I do remember it, yes. To be honest, I do my bit in the gym because I've read a lot of medical files, and I know that actually some health and some ability to do your 10,000 steps, it's got good merit. I don't think I could look like either of those characters, no matter how hard I tried. So.
Gemma, we're running out of time. We've only got 10 seconds, but why bother going to the gym? You don't need a six-pack.
You know what? I've got a great six-pack that's just covered with a bit of flour.
It's great to have both of you. Kate Hardcastle, Gemma Forte, thank you very much indeed for your time. I'll see you after the short break.